then you have to think about that to all the aspects with respect to Bhagat Singh or the personality of Bhagat Singh. Now you have to think. Thought process channelize that not only colonialism, it is also communalism that is the major issue in the country like India. He has properly strategize that what will be the initial part of the answer, what will be the connecting aspects, how he will be writing about the body and the conclusion. The pointers were thought initially only, then only you will be in a position to write the good example, because presentation will be one such important thing which will highlight that how you have to present your thought process, because jab tak that particular thing is in your mind, that will not reflected on that particular copy. The examiner will not be able to judge you. They will judge only based upon the kind of script that is in front of them. A prominent mentors that are there that will eventually help you to improve upon the answer writing, improve upon the structuring, improve upon the strategic thought process, improving upon the content, data, fact, example, and lastly about the presentation also. So all these things you are going to get through the test series that we are offering. Okay, so good afternoon everyone. I'm Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to discuss again, as we are discussing in this particular series, about the toppers' insights on the answer writing, right? So today we have taken Madhav Agarwal's copy snippet where he had written a question about history, right? And in this particular sense, we are going to discuss about what can be the key takeaways from his way of answer writing. Because see, each and every topper that we are discussing in this particular series reflects certain kind of differential aspects, because everyone has their own forte, everyone has their own comfort zone as far as the answer writing is concerned, but all of them reflect certain kind of uniqueness. And when we were discussing in the last video that we were talking about the Archit's style of answer writing, in that also we had discussed that initially you will start from the basic kind of answer writing, then gradually you will improve about that particular thing, and eventually your answer writing will improve, right? So regarding Madhav, briefly if I talk about again that why certain people score consistently comparatively better marks, so Madhav is also one such example. So in this particular attempt, he was able to secure All India rank 16 in the CSE 2024. But this is for the second time he had cleared the examination. Last year also he secured 211 rank in this particular examination. What does it reflect? That there are consistent improvement that he is doing, but also the way of answer writing, also the way of presentation, also the way of aspects that he is highlighting in his answer reflects that yes, this is also the need of the examination, and this is also expected from the side of UPSC. So we have to go by the expectations that UPSC needs from our side when it comes to the answer writing. Now I don't think so that there is a need to talk about the importance of answer writing for the mains examination or in general from the UPSC's perspective. It is well established that if you are going to get good score in the mains examination, definitely you are going to secure your place in the list. Then again, depending upon the interview marks, your rank may vary, right? So in this particular year, his All India rank 16 also gives a clear idea about that the way he is establishing his answers, the way he is reflecting his answers can be a source for certain kind of insight. So in this particular discussion, we are going to take forward the insights that he is imparting from the discussion. Now, why certain toppers, be it about Harshita, be it about Archit, be it about Madhav or any other personality who had secured comparatively very, very good marks and consistency, they are reflecting in their answer writing. So why they are able to secure comparatively good marks? So last video maybe we had discussed about 4 prominent pointers that we can take as a important insight from the topper's copy, irrespective whoever is writing. The first important thing is the strategic thinking. Now the strategic thinking does not always means that we have to think beyond the box, like we have to take certain kind of out of the box solution. No. It is about understanding the demand of the question very, very clearly. It is about not leaving on any specific aspect of the question. It is about writing in the manner the UPSC जो person है who is evaluating your copy is expecting. It is about identifying the core demand at the very initial part of the question. It is about writing in a good presentative aspect. So all these things comes from the strategic thinking कि जो भी उस particular question के बारे में है, you are able to think, you have to establish at the very first place only. So you have to talk about those particular things when you are developing your thought process about the answer writing. The second important thing about the toppers copies that we are going to discuss in this particular discussion also is the organization of the answer or the structuring of the answer. The structuring means not only talking about the introduction, body, conclusion, it is also about linking those particular things, how the introduction is connected to body, how the body is connected to the second part, how that second part is connected to the penultimate conclusion, and how that particular thing is connected with the ultimate conclusion. So that particular thing, so basically each and every part should make sense and those things should go in a flow. Third important thing that we are going to talk about is the content, where there will be data, fact, substantiation, examples, maybe if there are case laws, if there are certain kind of books, maybe in the history related question, there is a scope of quoting about certain kind of organization, certain kind of initiative, certain kind of maybe if revolutionary, certain kind of prominent killings if they are there, right? So all these things we have to talk about. Finally, when it comes to the presentation aspects, it is basically in order to present the thoughts in a structured manner, and that is also very, very, very important from the examination perspective. And the way you are presenting your answer reflects your clarity of thoughts. If that is hodgepodge, then obviously it will reflect that your thought process is also hodgepodge. If it is clear, if it is precise, if it is to the point, if it is presented in a very structured way, that means the thoughts are coming in your mind are also in the structured way. So we are going to discuss all these kind of things through the Madhav's answer, right? So what we have taken this particular question. So let's read this question once. The question says that the Bhagat Singh made a real breakthrough in terms of the revolutionary ideology, the goals of the revolution and the forms of the revolutionary struggle. Elucidate. So what are the keywords that are mentioned in this particular question? It is asking about Bhagat Singh. So he had made a real breakthrough in terms of the revolutionary ideology. First, the goals of the revolution, and also third is the forms of the revolutionary struggle, and we have to elucidate the same. That means whatever statement is given, we have to substantiate that with the facts, data, example and certain kind of case studies if there are any. Matlab, there is a statement given and we have to give the weightage to that particular statement. So three prominent aspects asked about the personality of Bhagat Singh: revolutionary ideology, goals of the revolution and the forms of the revolutionary struggle, right? Have you got the clarity about this question? Now if I ask you, and also do tell in the comment section that what is the central theme of the question regarding which personality the question is asking. It is about Bhagat Singh, right? So we will see in the answer that how Madhav has approached this particular answer and what all things he is reflecting in this particular answer. So this is the answer written by or attempted by Madhav for this particular question. Let's discuss this particular answer entirely, right? So first thing, this particular question is talking about that the Bhagat Singh has made a real breakthrough in terms of the revolutionary ideology, goals of the revolution and the forms of the revolutionary struggle. Now what is the strategic thinking regarding this particular question? First is identifying what is the core theme of the question. So what Madhav has done, basically he has identified that Bhagat Singh is the central theme of the or the core theme of the question. So the introduction should be directly addressing about this particular personality, which is Bhagat Singh. So Bhagat Singh is the Indian legendary freedom fighter born in Punjab who act at very young age and shook the roots of the Britishers. So basically क्या हुआ यहाँ पे? He had directly addressed the core demand of the question, which is about the Bhagat Singh, who was a legendary freedom fighter, right? Now we will discuss alternatively also, which could have been other ways in order to incorporate the introduction, but the point is that you will have only one aspect to write in the introduction. ऐसा नहीं कि you can in 4 or 5 ways you will be able to write. Later on you can think about that, but yes, this is also one such way in order to introduce, or a very good way to introduce the answer about Bhagat Singh or the personality of Bhagat Singh. Now how he had made a real breakthrough? Then you have to think about that to all the aspects with respect to Bhagat Singh or the personality of Bhagat Singh. Now you have to think, but you have to structure your thought process in these three headers: the revolutionary ideology by Bhagat Singh, the idea of revolution by Bhagat Singh, and the forms of the revolutionary struggle by Bhagat Singh. And then you have to give weightage to each and every pointers. You have to even write the sub pointers. So when you are doing the strategic thinking, you are incorporating those particular pointers which you can write. Simultaneously, in those also there will be certain more important pointer, certain lesser important pointer. Now you have to also structure those particular pointers in a prioritized manner. That is also very, very important. Then there have to be a flow that have to be decided for that particular question. So in this particular question, it is about like Bhagat Singh ke baare mein. It will talk about the revolutionary ideology. It will talk about the goals of the revolution. It will talk about the forms of the revolutionary struggle that he had reflected in his entire life. So basically what this strategic thinking, or we can say the brainstorming is about generating the pointers about that regarding what you are going to write, the introduction, what will be the key pointers in your body, the thoughts regarding the same, collection of all the thoughts at one place, and then writing the answer about that. Also thinking about the examples that you can quote. For example, there is Punjab Naujawan Bharat Sabha. There are many other associations that he was part of, from HRA to HSRA. All these kind of things that can be the part of this particular question that he had also reflected. Right? तो ये सारी चीजें आपको सोचना पड़ेगा. When you are able to think on all these kind of things, eventually you will be now in a position in order to identify those particular aspect जो question का demand था. So then you have come to a conclusion, and then in the conclusion you can talk about that how he had reflected the revolutionary conscience, or maybe how he had led the freedom struggle, or what might be the impact of him on the Indian freedom movement. And this is the way you will be thinking about the entire answer. So this is the strategic thinking in the nutshell, that you are entirely thinking about and giving your thought process about this particular question, which is asking about the Bhagat Singh and his role with respect to the revolutionary ideology, goal of revolution, and the revolutionary aspect of the freedom struggle, or the forms of the revolution. Clear hai? So this is the basic strategic thinking. Now after the strategic thinking comes another important pointer in order to structure or give a shape to whatever you are thinking. So you have thought about a lot of pointers, but how you are going to shape those pointers will decide how much you are going to secure in this particular answer. For example, now he had thought about like the Bhagat Singh is the core theme of this question. So the introduction should be centered about Bhagat Singh. He had talked about his introduction in the initial aspect, and then he had talked about that what made the real breakthrough. So there is a revolutionary ideology. He had talked about those particular pointers. Then he had talked about the goals of the revolution. He had talked about certain pointers, giving the adequate examples. Then he had talked about the forms of the revolutionary struggle that Bhagat Singh had reflected, and then he had given certain kind of pointers and examples. And then in the end he had represented that how he represents the revolutionary conscience and how his like death anniversary is celebrated as the martyrs day. So basically क्या हुआ यहाँ पे? There was nothing like out of the box. Whatever is asked in the question, those things were explained in a crux manner, in a well presented manner, but with the structured thought process that highlights a flow. There has to be a flow. For example, in specifically history questions, generally you go with the chronological aspects. Even if you are dividing in the theme, and in that particular theme, if the things are coming in such a manner, so you have to go in a chronological manner in order to write about the prioritized pointers. मतलब जो important pointers है, which were the important pointers, you should be writing first, and also going about the chronological aspects, right? And that will give the structure to the answer. Now the third important thing that we have to discuss over here, and here we are going to devote comparatively more time, which is basically the data, fact, substantiation, examples, all these things we can talk about. And here we will talk about what alternatively could have been also incorporated. But yes, that is for you, that if you, because After this, the exercise should be like you are also going to attempt this particular question, and in the comment section you are going to talk about like how you could have attempted this particular question. And this can be a very good exercise because multiple people, if they are writing their answer, their thought process, that will give an idea that how you are thinking about that specific pointers which even Madhav has written, right? Now let's take one by one pointers. For example, initially we will discuss the introduction. So what introduction he has written? Bhagat Singh is a Indian legendary freedom fighter born in Punjab who at very young age shook the root of the Britishers. Very good introduction, aptly highlighting the core theme. You could have also started with the revolutionary freedom struggle that was mainly started after the end of the non-cooperation movement, specifically in 1922. आप वहां से भी शुरू कर सकते हैं कि that the failure or maybe the end of the non-cooperation movement by Mahatma Gandhi ji led to the rise of the revolutionary conscience, and that gave rise to the personalities like Bhagat Singh. That could have been also an alternative way to start the answer. Or you could have talked about the second phase of the revolutionary freedom struggle was started after 1924 when there was establishment of HRA, and that body led to the rise of the personalities like Bhagat Singh. So basically there can be alternative introduction that can be there. Unfortunately, this particular year 1925 ka 100 year is completing this particular, and there is Kakuri conspiracy case, uska 100th year anniversary hai. So this particular theme of revolutionary is automatically important. So this also can give you the current context that government is celebrating the 100th anniversary, and that can give a decent introduction to this particular question, talking about that recent celebration, highlight the contribution of the revolutionaries. That can also be a decent introduction. So there can be multiple ways. You should not just merely copy the answer. You should be thinking in your own thought process. What is your natural way of writing the answer? What is the natural way of thought process? All these things you should be keeping in mind while referring to the toppers copies, right? Now next important aspect, which is highlighting that the making the real breakthrough. Now there were three parts asked in the question. First is the revolutionary ideology. What he had written: the aggressive means to pursue the national goals using the bomb at the Central Legislative Assembly or the Central Assembly. Very good pointer. Then concept of the mass revolution. Later point of time pe he shifted from the revolutionary activities to the mass struggle. So see how the points are arranged. First he is talking about the aggressive means, then he is talking about the socialism, then he is talking about the mass revolution. So basically it is also reflecting the clarity of the thought process along with the needed example. For example, here the use of bomb, here the HRA to HSRA, which is Hindustan Republican Army to Hindustan Socialist and the Socialist and Republic Association, HSRA, which was mainly contributed by the personalities like Bhagat Singh and Chandrasekhar Azad. So this is the later change in his thought process of revolutionary ideologies. You could have also incorporated his thought process on the secularism, like how his thought process channelized that not only colonialism, it is also communalism that is the major issue in the country like India. So we have to be free. So revolutionary ideology later point of time. But he has incorporated concept of mass revolution, and here the aspects like communism, the aspects like socialism, the aspects like secularism, freedom, all these things eventually comes in this. And given that the nature of the question is of 10 marker, obviously you can't write that much. So you can briefly write about certain pointers also. But yes, 2 points very well substantiated and another dimension added to this particular question. Next is about the goal of the revolution. What was the goal of revolution? To bring a combined revolution to challenge the Britishers, to reduce the threats of the Britishers by killing the officers. For example, Saunders was killed, right? And later he has also written that also instill the confidence among the youth and the people, like the Kirti Kisan Party. Now this particular party was also impacted by the ideology of Bhagat Singh, and basically that has contributed to the freedom struggle. So basically in the second pointer, the goal of revolution, he has highlighted that basically a comprehensive revolution. Combined revolution means initially he was talking about the revolutionary thought process, later on he shifted to the socialism or the mass movement, then reducing the threats of the Britishers by killing. So even if the Britishers are posing some threats, he has not worried about like even killing of certain officers. Saunders was killed in the revenge of Lala Lajpat Rai, right? And then he was also talking about that how he is led to the instilling of the confidence among the youth, which was the need of the time at that point of time, right? So see, there are again a lot of examples in form of substantiation, like basically a comprehensive revolution, then the personality that was murdered, and then also certain political parties. You can also talk about like Punjab Naujawan Bharat Sabha, or maybe any other organization that was there, right, through which he got influenced and which he influenced later on, right? Third pointer which was there is the form of the revolutionary struggle. He has also talked about that. So form of the revolutionary struggle, like kaise revolutionary struggle karna hai, in what manner it should be there. Initially it was basically about killing of the unpopular leaders. Later on it was changed to the mass struggle. So what he is writing, hunger strike in jail to get the proper treatment. Basically he was not only worried about himself, he was worried about the other people who were his comrades, right? So in this process he went to the hunger strikes in order to get the proper treatment. Even he used certain kind of literature as a means to get certain things done. Then use of the violent means like the bomb and wedding of the officials, then spread the mass education through the use of journals and the bodies, like against Jallianwala Bagh massacre, like Anjuman-e-Mohsiban-e-Watan. Like it was started by the personalities or his uncle Ajit Singh, but later on it was basically used by him also in order to propagate certain kind of prominent ideals. तो जब आप बात कर रहे हो भगत सिंह जैसी पर्सनैलिटी के बारे में, so you have to talk about the things which he has reflected aptly, and the things are mentioned properly. ऐसा नहीं कि only one thing is being repeated again and again, revolution, revolution, revolution. No. All these kind of things were compressed in a 10-marker answer and put beautifully, like even he had gave the Jallianwala Bagh example. And lastly, when it comes to the concluding aspect of this particular question, so effort was like to broad-based movement. He led to the making movement broad-based and popularized so that the people started giving the name to their babies or the newborns as Bhagat Singh. Basically, this reflects his popularity, and even today his death anniversary is celebrated as the Martyrs' Day. So basically what it is mentioned as, like he is giving a way ahead in this particular context, that how he has impacted freedom struggle. You can alternatively talk about the other ways where he had reflected the revolutionary conscience, like there was Karachi session of the Indian National Congress after that, and even the Indian National Congress condemned the process of his killing by the Britishers or his hanging by the Britishers. Even there were many such protests or many such trends in the freedom struggle. They were asking about like his freedom from the jail. So basically his personality is so significant as far as the freedom struggle is concerned. So basically we can write about that, even how he reflected the later part, once he was not there in the Indian spectrum, but his thought process, his ideals that were there and propagated by the new set of the revolutionaries or maybe the popular leaders also. So all these things are highlighting that he is writing specific pointers. He is not much elaborating, using a lot of jargons. He is writing the simple language. You can see the language and giving the adequate examples. So this is the difference that you are able to see, whether the question is about economy, question is about polity, it is history, it is geography based question. Different aspects may you have to write differently. But one thing is clear, that for each and everything, the structuring has to be there, strategic thinking has to be there, the content has to be there. And then lastly, which we are now about to start with, is the presentation, which is very, very important. Now let's see the answer once again in its entirety. Again, see this particular answer. If you are having one glance to this particular answer, aren't you thinking that this particular answer is neatly written, properly put, and then there are certain places where the underlinings were there, certain kind of flows that were created, then written in a beautiful manner where the writing is legible, the pointers are short, proper underlining is there as and when needed, there are boxed aspects that are there. Pointers are written briefly, basic presentation के tools होते हैं, all these things were utilized, and moreover each and every part of the question is addressed. ऐसा नहीं है कि in order to write more, one part is given more weightage as compared to other, even if the need was not. No. Wherever the need was there, he has aptly highlighted each and every part of the question, which was the need of that particular question. And this is the very important aspect. When you have to get good marks, you have to address each and every part of the question, right? So this is the overall aspect about the answer that was written by him. So what are the key takeaways from his way of answer writing? First, that he has properly strategized that what will be the initial part of the answer, what will be the connecting aspects, how he will be writing about the body and the conclusion. The pointers were thought initially only, then only you will be in a position to write the good example. Second is again about the structuring of the answer. So structuring of the answer was done in the introduction, body, conclusion. Body maybe he was aware regarding there were 3 parts. So 3 parts were differently highlighted. In each part there were 2 to 3 pointers that were mentioned, and not only mentioned, they were also substantiated. So this comes to the third aspect, which is about content, data, fact, example, maybe books, maybe certain organization. So from the different subject perspective, you will need to incorporate different things. And last but not the least is the presentation, because presentation will be one such important thing which will highlight that how you have to present your thought process. Because jab tak that particular thing is in your mind, that will not reflected on that particular copy. The examiner will not be able to judge you. They will judge only based upon the kind of script that is in front of them. If you are going to give them very good script, if you are going to give them comparatively good copy, then they are going to award you better mark, that is for sure. And this particular answer that we had discussed right now, that is highlighting that they have got good marks because he has ensured comparatively good structured writing along with addressing each and every demand of the question. Is it clear? So lastly, we are again discussing, as we had discussed in the last video also, that there is a process. There are certain kind of questions that you are writing on a regular basis. These will be the initial questions that will be removing your inertia. So this initial questions have to be written on a regular basis. There has to be certain kind of feedback that has to be seek, and then based upon those feedback, it should not be like you should just completely relax after writing the answer. No, once you get the feedback, you have to work upon that feedback. You have to incorporate those specific pointers, and then you have to improve upon whatever you are writing. So basically this is a process in its entirety, and that has to be continued. Later on, once you are thinking that you are comfortable with the subjects, appear for the All India test series, and this innovative assessment mechanism that is there, where the prominent mentors that are there, that will eventually help you to improve upon the answer writing, improve upon the structuring, improve upon the strategic thought process, improving upon the content, data, fact, example, and lastly about the presentation also. So all these things you are going to get through the test series that we are offering, right? So all these things eventually help you to upgrade your answer writing, right? So I hope the things are clear to you. And as we had again suggested in the last video also, the question is there for you. You should be writing the answer to this particular question and write in the comment section regarding what structure you are thinking, how you have framed your answer, what will be your pointers, and that will be acting as a mechanism to interact also, because that will be helping you to identify that how other people are writing. So this is it from my side. I hope that you might have found this particular session informative and you had got certain things from the key takeaways from the toppers answer writing. Okay? Chalo. So thank you everyone. Best of luck.